Okay, the hat is 88, and you turn the 8 sideways, you've got infinity. I just so happened to be watching a movie called Infinity, but I did choose the hat after the movie. Okay, so I wanted to talk about syncretism. Bloody hell. It's a very difficult word for me to figure out how to pronounce. It's called syncretism. Syncretism. I don't know if you can see this. Syncretism. Okay, and the definition is the amalgamation or attempted amalgamation of different religions, cultures, or schools of thought. And the quote is, interfaith dialogue can easily slip into syncretism. So I was saying that you could either use it to, well, for a good example would be when people equate Roman gods to Greek gods. There's different names for these gods, but with syncretism, you believe they are really, the names are related to the same deities. So imagine this is a switch. You can turn on syncretism, and do these parallels between cultures, religions, different schools of thought. Or you could say, no, we are going to talk about them as they are completely separate items, and we don't want you to contaminate the teachings of this particular school of thought by taking a shortcut and saying, well, it's the same as what I learned in this other course that I took in some completely different thing. But if you turned it on, you would say, yeah, we can use the shortcut. But I'm saying if you imagine that you're not going to use the shortcut of syncretism, you're going to immerse yourself in a school of thought as if you had never learned anything before at all. This is the very first thing you ever learned, and everything else you have to wall off a piece of your mind, so you're only working in a piece of your mind that is not contaminated by all the other thoughts and schools of thought and thinkings and conclusions that you've drawn. The other idea I have is when I remember when grade 13 I took a course in mathematics called Functions and Relations. And it was very convoluted. It took pages and pages to try and come up with an answer to a mathematical problem. And if you made one error somewhere along in all kinds of different steps that took you from here to there on pages and pages, you got the wrong answer. Then I took a course in calculus, and I saw that you could get the same problem, but using calculus, it was exceptionally easy and much less prone to making a mistake to get your answer to the question. But using the two different forms of mathematics, if you did them both perfectly, you would get the same answer. But what if you had two systems that gave you different answers? You keep trying to go and use calculus to prove that whatever you've got, but this other form of thinking didn't give you the same answer as calculus, and you had to accept it. It would be maybe what you would call an anomaly. If you think of quantum physics, it doesn't make sense to your rational mind, and yet the experimental evidence shows that it is so. So you have to let go of your rationality to perhaps grasp any fragment of quantum physics. Now, where were we going? Okay, so in In one school of thought, there is one being. All of us are one being, and I want to turn that thought off and consider that perhaps we are all separate beings. To some of you, it might sound really weird. Most of you, if you haven't studied certain types of metaphysics and perhaps David Bohm, you might actually think, well, we really are separate beings. I'm a separate body from you, and such and such. But I've skipped past that in the metaphysics and come to the conclusion that we are all, if we're not one thing, then we're definitely all connected. But I want to turn that box and wall it off and not look at it, because I want to start fresh with the idea that we are separate bodies and separate minds. So that I can learn someone else's school of thought, fresh eyes, not contaminated by my conclusions that I got from my other courses. So you might think it's a trivial thing to turn off all the things that you know to be correct. You have a marvelous mind and a marvelous imagination. It is very easy for you as a creative enterprise to throw away everything you ever learned before in order to learn something new that maybe in the end you might consider fiction, like 2 + 2 = 5. But imagine a universe where 2 + 2 = 5. It's a fictional universe, and it's something we're going to play with because we're going to do something that is fiction. Everyone knows that fictional books exist, and I once read a book that talked about money, and money was called ralods, which is dollars spelled backwards. And when you went to the store, instead of you paying dollars to the storekeeper to take a fridge home, you took the fridge home and you received ralods from the storekeeper. Science fiction, but it's just a different way of making a creative endeavor. So, and I also want to say that the flaw in the Course in Miracles is the description that's given of how we are in a dream that is somehow not divine, but it was created by an extension of the divinity. Because I just read that the other day, and I came to the conclusion that this particular piece of the Course in Miracles doesn't fly with me. It's basically saying that the divinity created the undivinity, and that's where we are. We're in the undivinity. If you are a purist in thought and you stick strictly to the Course in Miracles and don't think about anything else that you've learned, and you read that part of the Course in Miracles, how explained how we got to be where we are, we basically, well, you can go back and read it again, but I just read it last week, and that's my conclusion. They said that somehow an extension of the divinity created something that is not divinity. And that's where we are, and that's why we have to forgive where we are. So it's a great big convoluted thing, but I see that as a flaw. The divinity creating an undivinity. And that's where we ended up in Hell World, planet Earth. And only love is real, something that they say at the beginning of the Course. Well, you have to follow that in order to understand the Course in Miracles. But I also have teachings from my business school that says perception is reality. And if I perceive a hell world, then it is real to me. And certainly all my memories are real to me. So if you're telling me only my loving memories are real, well, I'll do that in order to try and understand the Course in Miracles. But to be a normal human being among normal human beings, I have to say, I perceive a lot of hellish things, demonic things, and so, they're real to me, and they're real to, everybody that I know. So, what is real? That is all I have for you. I just wanted to bring it to your attention that this is what I call a reality box. A reality box is simply one map of reality, and there are many different maps to reality, and some of them seem incompatible with one another. It would be as if you understood Urdu, which is a language spoken somewhere in Iran, and then you were told you have to go to England and you have to present all of your research in English. English is going to be your second language, and you're going to have to translate everything from Urdu into English in order to present it to the board of professors at Cambridge. That is the story that I'm listening to now. It is about a man from India who is told that he has to go to Cambridge to present his mathematical ideas here to the professors in Cambridge. So it's Dev Patel and Jeremy Irons, The Man Who Knew Infinity. There you have it. And that is what Dev Patel's character has to do. He has to translate everything from his native language, which I think was Tamil, into English. So he had a lot of extra work to do. Clearly the man that this was based upon, if I can read it here. No, they don't give me the name. I'm not even sure if it's a true story. I don't know. I'll have to look it up on IMDb to see what they say. But anyway, that's what his character has to do. And so, there you have it. Reality boxes, languaging, translations, and syncretism.